Welcome to the Tuesday Booze Day Cinco de Mayo edition of the Band Buzz. I am your host, Justin Craig. Thank you so much for joining me today on this live stream, and you'll hear it later as a podcast edition. We have a really exciting show today, and I'm so happy that some great people I've reached out to all over the country, and especially some Nashville people I happen to be friends with, agreed to come on the show. So we'll hear from my friend Jess McNear in just a little bit. First of all, I just want to thank some sponsors real quick. First, Legends of Tomorrow Entertainment. Legends of Tomorrow Entertainment is a full-service brand and band management company. If you have a podcast or you're an artist or you have a band and you want some people to help you with marketing and getting your Facebook pages all set up, they have a great team over there. I'm happy to be partners with them. My tribute bands Gravity and Sparks Fly, my John Mayer tribute and Taylor Swift are a part of them. Also this podcast, and they're working on so many other things. It's really a great organization. If you need more information and would like to become a part of the Legends of Tomorrow team, you can become a legend by emailing them at info@legendsoftomorrowent.com. Also, this show is brought to you by a guy I had on the show last week, Eric Perryman's Old Wise Clothing Company. Old Wise Clothing Company has some really quality, great products endorsed by a lot of great guys, from members of Candlebox to MMA fighter Chris Lieben wears Old Wise clothing. I got a few awesome shirts headed my way. A new trucker's hat I can't wait to wear when I'm playing shows this summer. So make sure you head over on Facebook to Old Wise Clothing Company and pick you up some fresh gear for the summer. Now, if you're like me and you've been hanging out inside a lot, I've actually been working out and trying to stay healthy instead of eating all the snacks and cookies and stuff. And one of the things that's helping me stay in good shape and feel good every day is the Arbonne products. And I've got two great people who represent Arbonne. Andrea Graves, she's awesome. She's an athlete. She's a great volleyball player. And she's got a lot of cool tips on, how to stay, athletically in shape and use great Arbonne products like the pain cream, which I use when I work out strenuously or have volleyball tournaments. You can head over to Healthy Hustle with Andrea on her Facebook group and just say, Justin from the Band Buzz or Justin Craig sent you over there. Or you can email her at Andrea Graves. And my other Arbonne consultant, she happens to be my massage therapist, and she's absolutely wonderful. And she has a little bit more focus on just kind of like healthy everyday living stuff, and she can help you out finding the best teas, and she turned me on to this calm powder that I just ordered. And so I'm excited to try some of the new things. I just ordered like $200 worth of stuff from them. But you can hit her Facebook page up at Best Healthy Living Inside and Out, or find her on Instagram at tranquil.solutions. Don't forget the dot, tranquil.solutions. So that's the advertising. Now we got that out of the way. Let's get on with tonight's show. From Freedom, Pennsylvania, Jess McNear has been making music for some time now, and she decided to leave her home right outside of Pittsburgh. So my fellow Pennsylvanian has decided to make her way to Nashville to chase her music dreams. And I think that's really awesome. I love when people just kind of pick themselves up and move themselves somewhere new. I'm really excited for her. I got a chance to listen to her new single that's out, which we're going to play later on in the show. And without further ado, let me bring on my guest, Miss Jessica McNear.
What's up, everybody? What's up? Thanks for having me.
Welcome to the Cinco de Mayo. I've got my tequila here. So you feel free to get buzzed on the show. That's right. That's one of the reasons I like to call it the Band Buzz. We're stinging you with some booze and relaxation as we talk about awesome stuff here. And so like we talked about a little bit before the show, I'd like to get people up to speed a little bit about where you're from. We know you're from Pennsylvania. I've said that. I'm from Pennsylvania, and but what kind of got your journey started and how you ended up in Nashville? And then I kind of want to get into like the nitty gritty of like what you're doing and how you're doing it, because I think, what's important is everyone's journey through music is really so different. And even the average person, they kind of just don't get it. They don't get what you do. They think that we're either, playing in a garage or in our basement. and then all of a sudden we're on like, stage with Carrie Underwood, and it doesn't really work that way.
Absolutely.
And so this is kind of just that real look at what people like you are up to and how they get there.
Awesome. So obviously originally just from north of Pittsburgh, grew up in a small town of Freedom, and I was very country. So, but my dad was a big influence on me.
Freedom, that's like close to Pittsburgh. How's that country?
Yeah.
The hills, right?
Well,
it's like
I was very rural. We grew up on a dairy farm. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of dairy farms in Pennsylvania. That's the Pennsylvania part that people don't understand.
Absolutely. But the drive to Pittsburgh was only like 40 minutes. So
yeah, that's nice.
So anyway, I've had a lot of musical influence around me since I was a kid. My dad was always in bands, and he was in a touring regional band. He was like heavy metal rock. So I don't know how I ended up country, but it just happened. So came out of high school. I was doing a lot of things, with drama club and chorus and traveling with that, doing a lot of local theater. I was in musical theater for a while. And then just after I graduated, I went to LA and New York to do a few things. I was into acting and theater at that time, but I was also dabbling in my own genre of country and just doing a bunch of different things, trying to feel out what I really wanted to pursue. And when I just turned 20, I decided, you know what, I got to go somewhere and I got to do something. So had an opportunity to move to LA. I just didn't feel like it was the right vibe for me at the time. Sometimes I look back and think, well, maybe I should have. But
and LA and Nashville, though, what a big difference between.
Yeah, it's totally different. And then, of course, with theater, I'm like, okay, New York, and it's not that far from home. So I still ended up doing a lot of local theater when I moved to Nashville. But again, I was also recording my own creations in studio and really filling out what I wanted to do. So I just made the move July of 2010, and I've been here ever since. I never left.
Did you have any connections in Nashville at all before moving there? Did you kind of reach out to anybody through friends or through,
I didn't have a huge, any huge connections as far as that goes, but I did have a fellow Pennsylvanian that moved here as a studio musician and also as a producer and owner of a studio. So that was kind of my first real connection.
That's a good one to have.
Yeah, it was great. It was perfect. Yeah. So
especially if you want to, start recording stuff and they got all the gear, you don't have to make that investment. That's certainly a huge win for you. Us Pennsylvanians have spread out everywhere, which is kind of nice. I've run into Pennsylvania everywhere, and it's like I love being in Nashville too because they serve Yingling Lager, which is my favorite Pennsylvania beer. You don't realize how much you miss it until you don't live there, and then you live in Illinois that doesn't have it, so you're like. The first thing I do is get me a nice cold Yingling Lager when I get to Nashville all the time.
Absolutely. Awesome.
So you end up in Nashville, and then you were creating some of your own music before you went there, and then this was an opportunity to work with people to help you refine that craft, help you produce it, help you put it out. What's the timeline of that? Because a lot of people, I think, look at that and go, "Oh, like this just happened," and it's like a blink of an eye. And sometimes years can be a blink of an eye, but there's a lot of groundwork in laying that stuff. So, kind of just walk us through that a little bit.
So, it's different for everybody, and for me, it's different for every project. Because the most recent project I've done took almost a year.
Wow.
And then that very first EP I put out before I moved as I was moving to Nashville, it took probably about 6 to 8 months to complete. So, and there's probably about 8 or 9 songs on it. So almost a full album.
Yeah, that's a big EP. If that's that's an album. I think albums sometimes they look less than that. Some of them these days, and it doesn't seem like it seems like in today's world that most bands and things like that are really just releasing single after single. I mean, there's very few bands that are putting out albums anymore. Old Dominion just did, one of my favorites. Brothers Osborne does that. Casey Musgraves does that. A lot of my favorites tend to write albums still, like as albums, but it seems to be like most national musicians even are just taking that, like, hit a single as hard as you can for as long as you can, and then maybe put out another one. So is there, do you like one approach above the other? And do you think one is more fruitful from a financial standpoint?
So financially, I think that it's totally up to the artist, because you're, as an independent artist, you're funding it unless you have someone helping you fund it. I mean, you've got to have that plan set out. So singles are great. Even when you have an EP out, like, you're gonna promote a single versus the whole EP anyway. So even if you did it sections, most people do 3 singles at a time. So they push the first one for a while, then hit a second one and a third one. So that's kind of like the Nashville way, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe speaking to people who haven't done this or tried this. I mean, I've been down this road too, but so I mean, your opinion, obviously you're doing it, and so you're segueing into your post, which I want to get into, and I want to dig into that, and this is like skirting the surface of that, which I think is really important for people to get some context about what you think, and and then where you went, with that, which stirred some things up. So that's one, again, for people listening, one of the reasons I reached out to Jessica is because she did have a post that stirred up a little bit of controversy, and a lot of people think differently in how the music world works. And again, it depends on your experience, it depends what you've done, and it depends, on your own, backing, maybe financial backing if you have some, and if you don't. And so we're going to dig into that. So if you're listening, stay tuned. But the first thing, I kind of want to roll back to is if you're just a person starting out and you really have to invest in yourself, would it make more sense that, like, you would just try to, earn some money, or, whether you're working part-time as a waitress in Nashville or downtown Chicago for that matter, that you would earn some money, maybe put that towards, a single, that studio time and whatever, release that, try to put some marketing steam behind that, and then see how that goes, and then maybe try again. So what would your advice be to somebody who was just thinking of doing it that way? Or why would you dismay them or say that, yes, that's a good idea?
So again, from my personal experience and from musical friends that I have, especially if you move to a city like Nashville, it's very competitive. So everybody is doing something else outside of music for money. It's just a fact. And even if they're playing Broadway 5-6 nights a week, they also have another job that they're working. And not only because of rent prices, but I've
gone way up the last 5 years.
Like, super insane.
Sure.
But also to be able to put aside studio money and promotion money and marketing money, because what a lot of people don't think about, and I've had to work through this myself, especially from the beginning, because I really had no clue, that, hey, I'm going to go record a song, but okay, what happens after that? What are you going to do to put it in front of people? Because that's not always the easiest part. So, yes, you can do things for free, but there are also a lot of things that cost money to promote and market. And I think that's super important to put aside money for that.
Do you have someone who is helping you navigate that? Or are you making all of those decisions just on your own, based on like other musicians' advice, or, resources like the Band Buzz, you might hear somebody talk about it. So how are you making those decisions?
So again, it's been a journey. From the beginning, you kind of try to figure out what's best, and you kind of throw ideas out and try this and try that, and maybe throw some money here and there, and you're just kind of working it out. But what I suggest, and this is something that I've learned, is find somebody that's successful already, and kind of not do everything the same, but at least follow their footsteps. I mean, that sounds crazy, but like,
no, it doesn't.
Some people don't get that. Like, okay, well,
people sell books.
Yeah, like, exactly. They did it. They already did it. They know how to do it. So, read marketing books, read business books. If you have a producer that's produced somebody amazing, or if, like, I've had producers reach out to me that have #1 gold albums. Okay, well, they know something.
Yeah,
they know what they're doing. So I always try to talk to those types of people and get information from them as much as possible. So
you don't have like necessarily
I don't have a specific person
or publicity kind of thing, or no. Even sometimes people's parents, or like the momagers are involved, and they're
my
helping
parents
out.
are they've always been very supportive of me, and
That's good.
I'm thankful for that, because I know a lot of people that, their family's just like, what are you doing?
Some families like mine, my family's great, so I don't want to say
Yeah.
anything bad about my family because they're probably listening to this right now.
Yeah.
But like, early on, I don't know if they were as much believers in like doing stuff in music as they are now. And so, I don't know if it was as supportive in the beginning of a lot of stuff than it's become. But, I think I'm fortunate now. I mean, I'm almost 40 and now they're behind me. But
That's awesome.
Yeah, but it's I've done a lot of things, and I think that they've seen that there's a path to doing something at least. And I think to your point earlier, I mean, I think I had my two first guests are we kind of focused on the entrepreneurial aspect of musicians, and usually if you've had this hard road of trying to cultivate something for yourself as a musician, it sometimes naturally leads you into maybe having other businesses for yourself and side hustles. Like Old Wise clothing, like you can go buy that clothing and stuff, and it's just his own line that he just kind of concocted as a he's going to sell merch and stuff anyway. He's good at that. I'm the worst at that, by the way. I'm the worst merch person.
I'm okay, but I'm not like, man. I wish I was so much better.
We did a post show. I wish we would have recorded it with Eric and I was like, merch for me is just like the worst endeavor. And the problem is I'm too close. Like I'm too close to like my music or whatever. And when people come up and they're like, I loved it, I'm like, here's a shirt, it's like, I don't charge anything for it.
Right.
And,
I know. I'm bad at that.
Yeah, I admire my friends who like they get someone else to like work the the t-shirts and stuff, because they're like, oh, go talk to Jenny, and like Jenny is like they're selling the shirt, and like she gets a commission, so she ain't giving you anything for free.
I used to have somebody that before I moved to Nashville, I had somebody in my family and then someone else, a friend of the family, one run the tip jar, so I didn't like and they ran it like it was great.
They're hustling.
And somebody at the merch table. Yeah,
you need that.
Yeah.
I mean, again, people come up to me because I own it. You know what I mean? I market my brands. I do all of the business work. And then when some, people are like, oh, you're such a good business person with your music. I'm like, yeah, like booking and negotiating contracts and all that kind of stuff. And, whatever. And keeping my band working, all my bands working. But like at the same time, like you approach me about a shirt, you can have it. Like, and the next thing you know, I spent $1,200 in shirts and they're all gone. And I have no money to like, people are like, I'm going to make money on this. I'm like, get somebody else to do it. You're too close, Yeah,
I totally feel you. That's crazy.
So yeah, I mean, so anyway, before we get kind of in the weeds a little bit with too many things, I do, since we're kind of talking about it and we're here, I do want to bring up your post, and so I want to unpack that, and so again, I told you before the show, this isn't like to beat you down about anything or whatever. And if you have a comment or a question, if you post it on any of our pages and the Band Buzz Facebook page, we'll see it and we can get to it on air. Or if you have a comment, we're happy to look at it and maybe explore something else about this in detail. But I just want to read your post because I don't want to misquote you. Or is that okay?
Yep, go for it.
So the post went like this, and this is what kind of stirred me to talk to Jessica in the first place and then bring her on the show. So the post goes, PSA. That's a public service announcement. Sounds serious. Sounded like there was going to be a COVID explanation after this, which I'm happy that it wasn't.
Yeah, right.
So, it says, if anyone tells you you don't need a lot of money to be in the music business, they're lying to you. Talent is about 10% of it. The rest is political and connections. So, I want to say this right after you posted this. I think it was like the next day you posted a follow-up video, which I think was important for context to what you said.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the first, I'm going to give you my honest first gut reaction to this was like, you're belly aching. You know what I mean? That was my first guttural reaction to reading it. Yeah. And I, to be honest, in fairness, I don't know you like personally that well. So I don't understand, I say this all the time, even about what the president says sometimes. I'm like, everything needs context and nuance. Yep. And sometimes when you read things in black and white, even the way I just read it, I read it my way. You know what I mean?
Right. Everybody reads it different.
You might have a different inflection on different words and that may change the meaning of this. So nuance and context are important. And so I want to say I'm happy that you posted a follow-up video, because the follow-up video is important to give what you said context.
Right.
So the first part that I do want to say is that there is a political. I don't know what exactly you mean by political, so we can dig into that.
Okay.
But I'll give you my thing. So my instinct with that is like it's like you need to know somebody who knows somebody in order to get anywhere. And as someone myself who's traveled and worked in a couple different scenes, and especially in Chicago is an extremely political place in a lot of ways. And the music scene is not far from that. But I think it's important to, when you say that you need to have this political thing, a lot of people are going to look at that. And maybe if I look at it as if I was just starting in the music business, I might be dismayed by what you said.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? I might think that, like, oh man, I don't know anybody in here or this town, and I really love music and I'm passionate about it, and I really want to get out there and do it. And I even have someone coming on the show in like a week, and she's done the family thing, and now she's like closer to like 40, and her kids are older or whatever, and now she wants to kind of get back into music seriously. And I look at something like what you said, and I was like, that might dismay somebody, because they don't know anybody, and they're just trying to make connections. And I think so. The other side of this is it is political, but I don't think it should dismay you from going out and making the connections and networking yourself in a serious way. I did that in Chicagoland, and it got me to here. And I know that sometimes it when you're out there doing it like that, you get haters and you get whatever. I would say the first part of that. So I just want you to kind of unpack what you meant by political connection.
Okay. Gotcha. So in my follow-up video, so if anybody hasn't watched it, you can go on my Facebook. But originally, obviously, everybody reads it differently. Everybody's going to take it differently. But for me, it was okay, you have to go out and market yourself and make some kind of connections to then move forward in that sense. Now, depending on what you want to do, that also depends on what connections that you need to make. So
what do you mean what you want to do?
So in terms of, okay, do you want to play on Broadway 6 nights a week? And, do you want to put out your own music? Do you want to be on American Idol? Do you want to be signed by a label? What is your goal ultimately? Because there's a lot of steps to get to each one. And essentially, I think that's what I meant in the political statement, being that there are certain people in certain positions that can get you there. And that's not to me negative. That's in a positive light. And, but again, I've also experienced it negatively. So kind of half and half.
So don't leave it there, because like that was something that you said in the video. You hinted at a few experiences, and until you kind of give some clarity to that. Again, I look at this through the lens of like an outsider. So let's just say I'm just a fan or just whatever. You've alluded to some things even about like morality that is like, it makes people think that like, they're sacrificing babies and drinking their blood behind the scenes. Like, they don't know what you mean by that. They think it's some Rothschilds. You're in some Eyes Wide Shut party. You know what I mean? And you don't know what the hell's going on. They're asking you to do crazy things in order to like make it in the business. And it's and it's not really that. Some, maybe there is, maybe there isn't. But sometimes when you leave those experiences, when you say that and you leave it hang, you leave people's imaginations to run wild with craziness that's probably not entirely accurate, so I want you to clarify that.
Okay. So I'll give an example, because I've been through both sides of an audition for American Idol and The Voice. We'll just take that as an example.
Okay.
So obviously everything that you see on TV is you go and you wait in line for hours on end, and you prepare 2 songs to sing in front of a judge. And what people think it is that you walk into the room with whoever the celebrity judges are, and that's what they see on TV. There's actually about 8 or 9 previous auditions that they have to get through to get to that point. Now, yes, I've done that part. However, I also have friends and myself that have been contacted by agencies that work with the networks.
Yeah.
And they look for artists and they pick out who they want or who somebody referred to them. And those essentially are the people that end up getting on the show. Now, that's not always the case.
Yeah.
But it's because somebody referred you to them that knew you. So essentially, that's somebody that had a connection there.
That's important for people to understand. That happened a lot here in Chicago as well. You know, over the last couple of years, there's certain select people that were, selected to pretty much bypass the normal audition waiting in line process. And I still have friends who in this scene who get contacted to do that. And they're pretty much like not guaranteed to be on the show, but at least get to the that serious
initial
audition phase. Yeah. So I mean, I think that's important for regular people to understand is, they think every single person is waiting in a 5,000 person line for 3 days just to walk in front of Paula Abdul and sing a song. And that's not really the case.
Yeah.
And so I think it's important for a lot of people to understand. And I think that's something good that you're saying then. And here is all scenes are like that, and all the cities they travel to are no different. You probably know somebody who's well connected in that scene, who's probably, helping a casting agency, for the lack of a better term, finding like the good, talented people. And it, I always wondered how people thought it was just all random, when now, especially, it's like you see this like B-roll footage of their home life and whatever.
Yeah, it's like, how did they film all that before?
How did they find this person? They picked random 200 and person 297, and now they have this whole backstory on their farm life in Alabama and why they traveled to Austin to audition. You know what I mean? So I think that's certainly I think that's certainly important. And here's a good comment: is they didn't know this stuff,
There you go.
And so that's kind of the idea of this show is to bring some of those things to light. But so I agree with what you said there about like a political connection, even in an audition setting where something like television and stuff, where they're hedging their bets. You know what I mean? A lot of people are working as sort of like casting people for the show, and they're trying to find interesting stories. They're trying to find that go along with a good voice and whatever. I mean, I think they find lightning in a bottle sometimes with a random person that does walk in and nail it, and that person gets a chance.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
it's kind of what we talked about even pre-show, is that, the idea that a lot of people have about drive-through success in the music world isn't true. I mean, you can even look at like Kelly Clarkson, and I listened to a lengthy interview with her where she discussed nothing about like, about like, oh, I just was in line and all of a sudden, boom, she was like, I was living in LA. I slept in my car. I was, homeless when I went back to Texas. And, she has a lot of interesting nuance to her story that is a trekked road through music that led her to that point. And she, a lot of things like making it in music, I equate to making it like in the NBA draft or the NFL draft. That happens in like, again, that's like a lightning strike. Not everybody does that. But a lot of people in music, though, like there's a lot of AAA ball, there's a lot of, double B, whatever. There's a lot of levels to this, and that you can be equally as successful. And I think, your statement kind of brings people back to, I guess, if they want to make it to that level. And I think that you're right to some degree, that like these stars may have to align for you. And if your expectation is, I'm not going to have to put up any money and I'm just going to like show up and make it.
Yeah.
That's not really going to happen, especially if you think that way. And and I think shows like American Idol and The Voice sometimes lead people to believe that. And that's not really true.
Yes, absolutely. And a lot of people that move to Nashville or cities that have a great music scene, I think because of those shows and those types of things that have come out in past years, that has been such the drive to move people to those areas and think that way. And when reality sets in, it's like, oh, I get it now. Am I going to stay, or am I going to, go back to 9 to 5 and be normal, whatever that is? It's kind of crazy, but I think those types of things have had a lot to do with giving the people of that mindset, like, I'm just going to walk up and audition and I'm good enough, you know, and we don't know what good enough is because somebody else is judging that.
That's some other subjective idea.
Yeah.
You know, here's a good question. It's like, are those shows a joke?
No, I don't think they're a joke. I just think that there's not enough information behind them that to the regular public.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's great opportunity. I mean, I've had friends on both of those shows and they've had great success. So I can't say that it wasn't worth it, you know?
Right. So, I mean, a lot of my friends who've done it, a friend of mine who's coming on the show who has a great band here in Chicago, Keith Simple, did the voice. And, you know, for a while, it's a good profiler, if you will. Like it builds your profile for a while. It helps you market. You know, at least locally, you know, to get some national television recognition.
Yeah.
You know, I think he was on, even before he came, he ended up being in a very big band here. The reason he ended up in Chicagoland is he came from Ireland and he was on
awesome.
I think, like the English version of American Idol or something in the beginning. Okay. He got like a golden ticket and stuff. Yeah. And it's propelled him into a pretty successful musical career, you know, here in the Midwest. And so I wouldn't say that these shows are a joke in the way that it's not real, but people have to understand that behind the scenes of these shows, it's even scripted to some degree. One of my best friends who's coming on Thursday, Nick Lynch, was on American Idol twice. And you know, he explained how it's kind of scripted, or he would say or do things and you know, in the heat of like confrontation or something, and they'd be like, stop, do it again, say it again, and he's like, I ain't doing that shit.
Yeah.
You know,
like, excuse
and all
me?
of a sudden magically he doesn't make it to the next round. You know, it's like,
don't do what I say.
Yeah. So he's like, you know, not playing ball necessarily, you know, and, you know, he talks about it, and I'll get him to talk about it on Thursday, is several instances where they kind of turn off the cameras and go, okay, you know, like, what do you know, if you could sing any song you wanted to sing, what would you do? Because like maybe the song he had planned to sing, they don't have the rights or ASCAP rights to do that song or whatever. And so people understand it's not every aspect of it is it's off the cuff. And you know, the term reality show, if you believe shows are real, then you need your head examined. You know, the only real show that's happening right now is this show. You know what I mean? And even that, it's like, we talked before this show to talk about what we were going to do. You know what I mean? So it's like, if anything you see on the air anywhere you think isn't planned in some degree, you know, people are trying to make good media, and I'm no different, for sure. I mean, I'm trying to be as unscripted and off the cuff as we can, but you know, you and I are going to talk before this just to make sure that, like, you know, we are cool with each other. You know, because I don't want to see a fight on the air. Maybe people do want to see a fight on the air. I don't know.
No.
So the other thing that I want to go back to a little bit also is that, you know, I did watch your video in its entirety, and so one of the things that you brought up in the beginning is investing in yourself as a musician, as like a business. And I preach this a lot to people. Anyone who's going to start a band, who wants to leverage it to make money or do anything in any way, you know, I feel like there's like a minimum investment, even in the Chicagoland cover band scene. If you want to get good gigs or play good festivals or play at the nice places and make decent money in the end doing it, it's going to require you to make an investment up front in a video, photo, you know, all of these, you know, like getting a real page of websites, graphics, logos done. And I've made a lot of my friends in this scene doing things that way, because I've always think of it as marketing a product, not necessarily like, oh, I'm going to have a band. And so your first part of your video, like I was in like 100% agreement with that explanation too, of like saying, well, if you don't have any money up front, or you expect not to reinvest any that you're making, like you're just going to start a band and you're going to pocket hundreds of dollars every weekend, you're crazy. I mean,
it's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen, and not in the way that you think it is. And you know, depending on your position in your band and whatever, sometimes I'm always like, I envy the guitar players of some bands. It's just, they show up and they play and then they go home and they don't do anything that has to do with the band, and that's great.
Yeah.
But some of us like who have the bands and have to like do the booking and do all of the things and handle it all independently, which I assume that you do a lot of that yourself, right? Like, do you have a booking agent that you work with?
Well,
Or
I've worked with other independent booking agents to kind of get out in certain markets. But as far as local and like in my vicinity, obviously I'm the one reaching out and doing the things behind the scenes, emails, phone calls, texts, Facebook, whatever you got to do to get in touch with a venue.
So me and my buddy Eric were talking last week. How many emails do you think you send out a month, or messages a month to try to get shows?
I'm more of a messenger because nobody really answers emails much anymore.
That's true. That's like such
I back it up with an email. I do back it up with an email. But
it's always good. But how many of those do you think you send out a month?
I don't know. Probably like at least 10,000 messages. Like
10,000?
Well, back and forth.
Yeah.
But all in all,
all in all,
covering
like at least 1,000 reach outs though.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
reach outs for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so again,
in the thousands, not hundreds.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's a piece that people miss too. It's like, if you think you're just going to even put up your marketing and media and then not have to reach out and whatever and have people find you, you are mistaken, and I don't care.
And that does happen sometimes, but not to make it worth it. Yeah.
Yeah. Even then it's like, it's a lot of the referral business that you get as a band or referral bookings that you get, but by someone just happening to come across your thing is man, you have to be fitting some kind of niche because it's a saturated. I don't like to use the word competitive because it's not like we're against each other in any way in music, which I hate to use that word, but I will say it's saturated. I will say it's like, Nashville is saturated now. It's like every singer from everywhere and any, dick who can play a guitar is now in Nashville.
Yeah.
And Chicago, is a little bit different, but similar. It's like every, the dad band or whatever. It's like, I'm but it's like starting a band is like boom, boom, boom. There's hundreds of bands start up every single day. So it's so saturated. And if you think that like you create all your marketing and everything like that, and you do it all the right things, but then yet you miss the part where you have to reach out and like be your own business advocate or agent for that matter, unless, there are fine agencies here, United Talent, Double D Booking, like there's people you can get with here in Chicagoland. And there's great booking agency in Nashville and, the management companies and, but but you have to be willing to give up something for that, and they don't even want to take bands on unless they're like a good concept, B, it's like, so even for agencies, it used to be agents were always looking for bands to represent, and now it's like bands are always looking for agents, and the agents are like have to do no recruiting or A&R of their own anymore. And so it's kind of like that here. I worked with Double D Booking for a little while here in Chicago, and they get a lot of bands that wanted to come, and be on their roster and the website, and because they're known for having good bookings for big Chicago River North festivals and that kind of thing around here, and good clubs and Navy Pier and whatever, and people want those shows, and they're like, well, if this company represents my band, I'll get an opportunity to get those shows. And so we had people approaching us by like the hundreds, that they started a band, they want to be on there, and we'd talk and be like, well, it's they're just like any other band, or they don't have really a defining thing that makes them unique in some way. And so we were looking for standouts, and even at Legends of Tomorrow, it's like, Jason and stuff, it's like he's looking for niche ideas and standouts. He's not looking for something that's just, oh, we're just we're another cover band that plays Journey and everything else, and they're like, well, it's like that's not really what some people are looking for these days. In Nashville, they're looking for people who have that like artist potential, like you're not just some person singing, Carrie Underwood covers in Nashville. Like, you're either working with songwriters or you're writing your own stuff. And so I kind of want to segue into that with you a little bit. So you obviously so you're writing your own stuff. Are you working with writers or both, or how are you navigating that?
So I do a little bit of both. And there's actually a comment on my posts about that very thing is if you're if you're navigating yourself as an artist, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're a songwriter. But there are a lot of great artists that are also songwriters, and there's a lot of songwriters that have become artists. So it's just kind of like, you know, feeling your way around it. But I do like to co-write, and I have written my own stuff that I've recorded. But I like the idea of a co-write, even if it's just one or two people, because you kind of feed off of each other and you come up with something that maybe you haven't thought of, you know, and that's what I like. But also as an artist, a lot of times what happens, especially with larger artists that are signed, everybody thinks it's their song.
Yeah.
It is not their song. They
Yeah.
got it from a publisher.
Sure. No,
You know?
I have a lot of friends who are in the songwriting world of like literally selling songs, you know,
Yeah.
and that's a lot of people don't realize that aspect of it too. Is a lot of some of your favorite songs are sung by certain artists. I'm always a fan of the people that are singing their own songs, because I feel like I can tell. Like I feel like when I listen to it, like I can tell like this is heartfelt from them. You know, like Casey Musgraves or, you know, Old Dominion or Brothers Osborne, some of those guys in the country music world for me, I gravitate towards those artists so much more than, you know, let's say like a Luke Bryan, who like really doesn't write a lot of his own songs at all. You know, he gets some co-writing credits, but I think it's like because he changes one word.
Yeah, one little word.
Yeah. And also, you know, Chris Stapleton's a good example of being like a great songwriter for like 20 something years. Nobody cared about who he was.
Nobody knew who he was.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden he dropped an album of finally all this, you know, blues, cross country kind of stuff, and wound up in the pop realm. And boom, he blows up, you know. And I remember seeing him here at the Windy City Smokeout the one year. He's playing at like 1 o'clock for like 200 people, you know, during this festival, and nobody cared. And like the next year, I literally took my band to go see him, and you know, there was 15,000 people crammed into a stadium. So it was like, you know, what you know. But I feel like when I listen to artists, I can get that sense of their juices in there, like they you know, they're, you know, in your bio you talk about like writing your like life experience and stuff into songs, and I really feel like that shines through. Do you agree, or do you feel like it do you feel like, you know, I'm not giving artists or good singers like Carrie Underwood enough credit, because, you know, I feel like every Carrie Underwood song sounds like a Lifetime movie to me. It's always like somebody's getting
it does,
Carrie, you know, it's like it's terrible.
So I mean, from an artist standpoint, like, yeah, obviously you're going to feel your own songs or your own co-written songs more, because it's really like from, you know, your standpoint or your point of view. But I've also come across songs that I'm like, dude, I wish I wrote that, and I can feel that. So I think it's half and half. I think you can go either way.
Interesting. So one of the last things that you explained in your video, I want to tail back to that for a little bit, before we kind of close out, because I want to just close that whole thing up for me. You know, you had me like 3/4 of the way in the video explanation, even though like the first post I didn't agree, because again, I looked at it through the lens of like, this may dismay a lot of people, and a lot of, you know, and some people may look at that as like a slap in the face to some people who have made it, you know, who dug themselves out of, you know, I always remember that, you know, I've heard the Luke Combs story of him, like, you know, just kind of making it. And one of your guys who's coming on the show, Ken Royster, has worked with him. And
he's awesome.
Yeah, and I can't wait to have him on the show to talk about this particular thing. But in your post, he cites the example of working with him, and it wasn't, you know, he didn't, you know, Luke a lot, you know, he was kind of more of a YouTuber, and you know, he is a little bit more of, again, and I'm not saying this is the norm, but it's a lightning strike that he got to a high level with good songwriting, being known as having a following as a YouTuber. And maybe that's a map that some people need to follow these days. Is like, if you don't have a lot of money or whatever, you have to be resourceful in a way to publicize yourself without necessarily a lot of money behind you. And then, you know, I remember the Luke Combs story about him, you know, on his first tour, he was like pulling up next to like, you know, tour buses in his like little gremlin car that he could barely fit in, you know, with his guitar in the back. And it's like he had this little beater car that he's just driving around and parking next to the tour buses. And everyone's like, "Where's your bus?" And he's like, "I don't have
it.
I don't have a bus," you know. But I think that's so important. Though, and I only say that about your post because I look at that and then those stories, those people might say, well, I mean, I had to work my ass off. Like and so some people might look at like Luke Combs and go, he just got there because he had money from somewhere, and he didn't.
No.
And so that is the seesaw of sort of those blanket statements. You paint a broad picture, and then people can say, well, and when you say it's like 10% talent, that really takes it down for a lot of people and says, well, I'm not talented. Like I made it, but I'm not talented. It's because I knew somebody who knew somebody. You know what I mean? So I just want you to kind of explain yourself a little bit.
Okay. So as far as the connections and the money and everything, again, that goes back to marketing yourself. Now, if you don't have a whole lot to work with, which I didn't at first, you kind of build that as you go. But I'm not saying that you have to have, $10 million over here to make it. But somebody that does have $10 million over here, I mean, they may have a better shot because they have a more broad array of cash flow to be able to market and promote themselves. And, that's not always the case. Again, like you said, Luke Combs, that's not always the case. You have great songs. You have a great producer. You have, which also again goes back to the connection. Like, Ken Royster had produced a lot of people before Luke Combs, but Luke Combs made him. Like it blew up. It was crazy. So, I don't want anybody to think about that negatively again, but at the same time, know reality that, you have to treat it like a business. You have to keep putting money back into it. If you're breaking even at first, that's normal. And if you're in the negative, that's normal too.
That's normal. That's
and keep pushing. Like, and like you said with, YouTube at the time with him, but now it's a bunch of different social media platforms. I just joined TikTok. Do I want to join TikTok? No, but am I going to do it? Yeah, because there's a lot of people over on TikTok.
I had it when quarantine started, and then I deleted it, and it's like now I started the show, and it's like, is it going to be on TikTok? And I'm like, God damn it!
Yeah, it's like, so you kind of have to like go where the people are. You know?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I try to avoid some mediums and stuff because I always come on social media too much or just reading, and but I agree. So and again, and the last part of that is the end of, again, so 3/4 of the video you had me, and then at the end you brought up the morality card, which I sometimes when people do that, I cringe a little bit because I get, and again, I'm not trying to be mean, but sometimes it comes off like a little holier than thou, like, I'm not going to do something. And again, that leads people to believe like, what is happening behind the scenes? What won't she do? It's like, is someone trying to Harvey Weinstein you, or is some, like, and I'm not making fun of that stuff that happens, because I know that it has and it does, and who's in jail, and things are happening to that nature. But again, when you leave those nuggets hang like that, and even in a video, people's imaginations with that run wild, and they're not sure what you're alluding to. So I want to be like clear a little bit, or what you're willing to like divulge on the show, to be like, these are sort of the immoral aspects of being a woman artist, or whatever the case may be, that someone was trying to pressure you into doing what you walked away from, because I think that may lead more heavy into what you were trying to say than maybe what you realize.
Gotcha. Yeah, so I'm going to give an example from myself, and then I'll give some other points from others that have experienced this. But if you know anything about the scene or have been following that type of thing for any number of years, but most recently is the Me Too movement. And do I agree with everything? Am I a feminist? No. I'm kind of, I don't really go that way as far as that political stance. But what I have seen is that, I personally choose not to dress like a stripper up on stage, and I'm not saying if you do that, that's bad. That's your choice. But I have been told to get off stage because I was not scantily dressed before. And
so these producer people or whoever that taking a look at you, they were just like, hey, why don't you sex it up a little bit and whatever, and you were like, what do you mean by that? And
It's like, well, you need to take your jacket off, or you need to, show your belly a little bit, or your boobs, or, and it's like, why? People are here listening to me. They're up in the front row. They're dancing. They're having a good time.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
Personal choice.
Sure.
Not saying, but at the same time, it's kind of like when you get into the heavier stuff like that, there's been a lot of Nashville singer-songwriters that are female that have gone through those experiences and have spoken out about it. And it's not just females either, it's males too, so I guess that's what I kind of meant in the fact that I've been in rooms, like I auditioned for John Rich at one point, and I went to one of his birthday parties, and being the outside person looking in that knows nobody at that time, it's very kind of eye-opening in the fact that, like, okay, they're getting so super trashed over here and they have no idea who's even here to see them. They're not being open to the fact that these people are here to support them and what they're trying to do with their famousness, I guess. But he has a lot of charities. He's a great guy. I have nothing negative to say about him, but as far as the connection goes, hey, if you're the girl that goes sleeps with the producer over here, like, you're probably going to get something more than the girl that doesn't. And I'm not saying that that's always the case. I'm just saying that I know that happens.
They're certainly probably lured into it with the illusion that they might get that, I'm on your side. I certainly think that that's wrong. I don't think that anyone's clout is being used that way, but I think sometimes even the opposite is happening. I think where girls may think if they do that, that they're going to get a better shot. They've got sidetracked because they slept with so and so, or they've done that. So I'm with you. And in the Me Too world, it's a little trickier now than ever, because there's a lot of things that have happened, even with athletes and things like that. It's like they have these situations, and then after the situations, they're like, the girl's like, well, I didn't want this, and whatever, and it's like, well, and they have a tough time, going, both ways, like proving it, and then they go for settlements and stuff like that. So you never get some of these full stories. And now we're in this like difficult situation. It seems like even it's politicized to a lot of degree, where people are, they don't want that guy to be the justice, or now that's like they don't want Biden to be the president. So now they're going to come out after 30 years when now they didn't come out when he was vice president 8 years ago, and this happened 22 years ago.
Yeah,
like, they wait till 30 years.
Yeah, why bring it up now?
Yeah, and that makes me always be like, and again, I'm not anti, the subject, or anti even feminism. I think it's been hijacked by extreme feminism to some degree, but in my world, I just have, I have to like look at this. I always try to look at it as like, if I'm like the police, or like the, a judge even, and be like, well, what's the evidence here? Like, how does it play out? And, then, people have to like make a case and prove it to some degree, and the nonsense notion that nobody has to prove anything anymore. They can just say it, and that's what floats. Yeah. That's hard.
I disagree with that too.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because I think, again, when you hang some things out there that you said at the end of your video, that I went, well, it's like, well, what's happening? She's like alluding to something that, like, I don't know what she's trying to say, and maybe she's trying to say something that's a little like shifty here, and so. Not that, again, I believe what you say. I believe in your experiences. I believe what you're talking about. But I always want to kind of like clear that up if I can.
Yeah, for sure.
It's an important nuance to like, that conversation. And it leads the general public to believe something else is going on there that may be super extreme. And again, I've been at these parties too. I've seen, guys who are artists or upcoming artists are having drinks and doing some drugs, or doing different things. And I'm not naming any names, but like, at the same time, I'm not holier than thou, and not that I've never partaken or anything like that, but certainly, it's like I've walked away from like, it's certainly again a political move to be like cool with them and like hang with them and be a part of their crowd, and them to like you and especially if you want to advocate some sort of connection with them, and I've had lots of drinks and lots of partying with people in Nashville.
Yeah.
And I've made a lot of friends that way,
Yeah.
and so,
Absolutely.
I'm always a myth too. But to the other point, if you think you're going to go to Nashville and you think that you're not going to like have drinks and like, have, party with people in order for them to like you, and you're just going to live this sort of like Bible beating, Mormon life or whatever in Nashville, you are sorely mistaken. I really, it's a scene where like people hang out, Tennessee, like people are friendly. They want to hang out. They want to have drinks. They want to whatever. And they still go to church on Sunday, but like, you know what I mean? But like, yeah, exactly. But they're still, they're having a few shots of whiskey on Saturday night too. And so, you have to live your life there in some sort of balance.
Absolutely.
Opinion. Even here in Chicago, it's like, you got to live your life in some sort of balance. If you think you're gonna, just kind of be super square to some degree and make a lot of friends,
well, and people
but it's a little more difficult.
People are gonna think you're prudish, or you're too stuck up, or to hang out with them, or you can't have a drink, or you can't do this and you can't do that. It's like, okay. Now I have had people like where they're on like a health kick and they're not drinking for like a certain period of time, but we know that they drink.
Yeah, I'm trying to detox during quarantine here and there. Like I said, in the beginning of the show, I don't know if you heard, like I've actually lost 15 pounds since quarantine started.
Awesome.
And but like I am like running every day, and I'm doing kettlebell workouts and doing like, protein shakes and stuff like that. But then every once in a while at night, I'm like, this tequila looks pretty good. But, I've got nowhere early to be tomorrow, so I might as well, hang out a little bit. So again,
balance.
Balance is key. Well, and we're getting close to an hour, and I try to keep these kind of things close to an hour. But I want to give you a chance here to talk a little bit about and thank you for talking about that. I know you're maybe a little nervous about me digging into you a little bit, but I think these are important topics too to discuss, as people again are getting into music, or they don't know, or and again just the general public at large who kind of doesn't understand how these things work. And I thank you for sharing light on some of these things and sharing your experiences with us and the fans of the show, and hopefully fans of yours who are watching get to see it, sort of an inside look at you. But what's next for you? I mean, we have a single I think that we're going to play. I'm excited. I listened to it and it's jamming. I like it. And so maybe even what that song, like kind of where that came from, who helped you with it, and what's next for you?
Well, so starting out with the whole EP situation, so I wanted to do a project that was really just for me, no one else, not trying to necessarily be something or get somewhere, but I did want to market it that way. Kind of like after Lady Gaga made all her money and then she did something super like independent. Like, you just want to do something for you that really kind of hones in on your personality and your artistry. So that was really what that EP was about. And then I had 5 songs. We weren't going to do 6. And my producer came to me and he said, "Hey, I got one more I think you should listen to." And it was Centerline. And so it ended up being the title track and, being the most promoted right now. So it's kind of crazy how that happens. But it's a very kind of personal take on someone's journey, whatever that may be, and the center line being that person or that thing that keeps you grounded. So that's kind of where that, at least from my perspective, that's what I got from that song. That's cool. So are you writing any more? Or are you just kind of in promotional mode with this new record? I think you were saying on another one of your posts about how you're really looking forward to doing you had some shows coming up to promote this album, but now you kind of have to figure out a different way. And I think shows like this are a good outlet, and maybe just try to find some other things. But are you going to focus on maybe like doing a video for any of these now because you can't tour with it necessarily, or what's the plan? Yeah, I'm definitely working on some visual aspects of that. I already had planned on doing a music video for Centerline. And of course, things got pushed back a little bit because of COVID-19. But hopefully within the next month or 2, we'll have a video in the works for that. So do a quarantine video. I love them. I mean,
our band Sparksfly just released one yesterday, and
Nice.
so I'm gonna have the guy who did the editing for that on the show, because he's done a couple now, and they're really good. Like the quarantine videos, I think they're kind of fun, and
Yeah.
if you can kind of piece it together with a good editor. So if you need an editor, I'll hook up with Will. He's super good.
Cool.
But yeah, and he loves it, and he's all like, he's just really old school the way he loves people are just making music still, and I think that's huge in this time. So no, we look forward to it, and I want to just kind of point everyone towards, like, she's all over social media, so you can find her on Instagram and Spotify and Twitter. Are you on Twitter?
I am, but I don't use it as much.
Yeah,
I'm an Insta user and Facebook.
Yeah, I'm on Twitch with this show, man, but I'm such not a tweeter. I don't.
Yeah.
You know what? I think Twitter is like for famous people who give
I'm
a
like,
crap. You give a crap what people say. Like, no one gives a shit about what I have to say right now. So maybe at some point when I have Twitter, I'll think I'm good enough. But
I never caught on to it. I have one to say I have one. But
yeah, me too. So so you're definitely on Facebook, your music
Instagram.
pages, Reverb Nation. You can hear her music there.
Yeah.
So I just want to, that's up on the screen. Again, if you're just listening to the podcast, you can see her at Jess McNear, McNear music, Jess McNear music.
Yep.
And you can go download her new EP, her lengthy EP, right now. And a lot of songs.
It's a half hour. It won't kill you.
So it's worth it. So it's worth to go get this EP. It's worth your investment here. So I'm going to cue up her final song here, and this is what's going to play you out. And thank you once again, Jess, for coming on.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and once you got some videos and stuff, and you want to come back and debut them right here, I think we'd love to have you. So
that'd be awesome.
Next time I'm in Nashville, I'll buy you a round of drink. All right,
you go.
You ready?
Yep.
All right,
good.
let me screw this up. And thank you once again, and thanks to all the listeners and the live streamers out there for hanging on and getting me through my first couple of shows here. Okay, I hate him. I think I gained the 15 pounds. Well, people hate me now.
That's my producer.
Oh my God, I got haters already. This is what's
Dave's
going on.
Dave's a hater.
He's okay. He was a nice guy. All right. Thank you so much. Have a great Tuesday, Booze Day. Happy Cinco de Mayo. We will see you on Thursday with Nick Lynch. Thanks for hanging out with the Band Buzz. Be safe, y'all.
Bye, guys.
That was Jessica McNear with her new single Centerline. You can go check her out again on Spotify and wherever you find great music. Once again, this show is brought to you by Legends of Tomorrow. Legends of Tomorrow Entertainment for all your brand management needs. You can find them at legendsoftomorrowent.com or email them at info@legendsoftomorrowent.com. And check out all of their wonderful packages to help you market your podcast, your content, your band, your music, whatever you got. Give them a call or send them an email. Check them out. It's also brought to you by Old Wise Clothing Company. Great rock and roll and alternative apparel. It's really cool clothing. I can't wait for my trucker hat and my ringer tee to show up. Sponsored by a great artist from the bands Candlebox, and even MMA fighter Chris Lieben is a proud sponsor of Old Wise Clothing, and now the Band Buzz is on the roster too. If you're an artist and you're looking for a clothing endorsement deal, check out Old Wise Clothing Company and get a hold of Eric Perryman, and he'll hook your band up. Also, the fine folks at Arbonne. I've got two great Arbonne consultants. Make sure you get with Andrea Graves, my girl Dre. She is all about health and fitness and just she likes to do stuff that tastes good and make you feel great. So she's got all kinds of wonderful products, and you can join her Facebook group at Healthy Hustle with Andrea, or email her directly at andreagraves24@gmail.com. Or you can get a hold of my girl, Beth. Beth is my massage therapist, but she's also, she sent me a post or a message earlier today that to make some healthy protein cookies with some of the cool new strawberry products I got from Arbonne. And actually, I thought her post at first said pot cookies. So I was like, wow, I'm going to get pot cookies. But it wasn't. It was protein. I was just reading it wrong. Anyway, if you want to feel good and be healthy, especially in this time where you're just kind of hanging out at the house, stop eating cookies, stop eating, chips and whatever else. If you want to put some good stuff in your body, go ahead and hit either of my girls up with those awesome Arbonne products. You can reach my guest, Jess McNear, through any social media platform at Jess McNear Music. Go check her out. I want to thank her so much for being on the show. We had such a great time. And we will see you on Thursday. Have a great night, y'all.